I never believed in ghosts. Not until I went to these places. They say a hospital is where the line between life and death is thinnest. When a hospital is abandoned, that line breaks. And I saw it break. Not because I was brave, because the souls there wouldn't let me go. These are 5 stories, 5 locations, 5 different kinds of horror. Each one is based on witness accounts and my own research. Over 5 years, I have changed names and some details to protect the living. But if you ask me whether they are real, all I can say is, go see for yourself. Sit still, listen, and don't turn around if you feel someone breathing on your neck. Willard Asylum in New York. Closed in 1995. It is famous for the suitcases left behind by patients. Over 400 of them. And I met Frank, the last security guard. He had watched over the building for 12 years after it closed. Frank told me, go down to the underground corridor at 3 a.m. Don't bring a flashlight and never count the wheelchair sounds. I brought a flashlight and I counted. The corridor is more than a kilometer long. White brick walls have turned brown with mold. The smell of old antiseptic mixes with something sweet, the smell of death. At 2:58 a.m., I heard wheels screeching from far away. I turned off my light and pressed my back against the cold wall. The sound came closer, closer. Then it stopped, right in front of me. I turned on the light. An old wheelchair stood there, white paint chipped off. No one sat in it, but the blanket draped over the seat had a deep dent, shaped like a human body. As if someone had just stood up seconds ago. On the back of the chair, engraved 005, patient number 5. I touched the blanket. It was still warm. And then a small metal door creaked open beside me, the kind used to pass dirty laundry to the basement. A hand reached out, gray skin, long, curled nails. It gripped the edge of the door and pulled. The door swung open with a shriek. And then something crawled out, not on legs, on 2 abnormally long arms. It moved like a spider. Its head rotated 180 degrees. It had no face, only a long line of stitches running from forehead to chin. Dark fluid seeped through the stitches. I ran. I did not look back. The crawling sound followed me, faster than I could run. I scrambled up the stairs, fell, got up. When I burst through the basement door, I turned around. Nothing, just the metal door shut tight. But on my collar, I found a yellowed scrap of paper, a page from a diary scrawled in pencil. Day 5. They sewed my face wrong. Please open my suitcase. My real face is inside. I showed Frank. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, Suitcase 005 is still in the attic. Do you want to open it? I said no. I left Willard the next morning. I never asked what was inside that suitcase. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I still hear the sound of a wheelchair rolling down the hallway of my own apartment. I live on the 7th floor. Waverly Hills, Kentucky. A tuberculosis hospital where more than 60,000 people died. They built a 500-meter-long death tunnel to carry bodies down to trucks without scaring the other patients. I did not go alone. I went with Lisa, a psychologist. She had a different approach. Instead of hunting ghosts, she hunted lost medical records. She told me, ghosts do not appear because you bring a camera. They appear when you dig up the truth. We snuck in through a broken window on the first floor. The air was thick and cold. We walked up to the second floor. Long hallway, rows of old beds covered in gray sheets. Room 502. The door was locked with a new iron chain and a new padlock. Someone had locked it very recently. Lisa peeked through the crack. Her face went pale. "There is a woman inside," she whispered. "She is sitting in a rocking chair, holding a child." I looked. I saw nothing but darkness. But in the mirror on the opposite wall, I saw her reflection. A young woman in a pale blue patient gown. Her eyes were red and swollen. She was rocking back and forth. No sound. Lisa cut the chain and pushed the door open. The temperature dropped instantly. I could see my own breath. Then words began to appear on the wall, seeping through the old paint like sweat. 1928. Nurse Mary, 5 weeks. Room 502, 1931. Nurse Clara, 1933. Nurse Doris, 1935. Nurse Helen, 1937. Nurse Louise. Nurse. 5 nurses, all pregnant, all forced to have illegal abortions by the same doctor. They died in this room. Their babies died too. The doctor was never punished. 2. He moved to Florida and lived to be 96. Lisa did not scream. She did not pray. She pulled out a folder she had found at the local library, old photographs and testimonies from other nurses. She read the 5 names aloud. Then she said, "You do not have to stay here anymore. I will take this to the authorities." The rocking chair stopped moving. In the mirror, 5 white figures stood in a row. They bowed their heads. Then they faded away. We left. A month later, Lisa sent her report to the Kentucky Health Department. They opened a small investigation, but there was not enough evidence to prosecute a dead man. Still, a local journalist wrote an article. People started leaving flowers at the gate of Waverly Hills, not for the TB patients, but for the 5 nurses. I asked Lisa, "Do you think they have moved on?" She said, "I don't know, but since that night, room 502 has not been chained shut again. The door stays slightly open, and no one has heard the rocking chair since." Unquote. Essex Mountain in New Jersey. First, a tuberculosis hospital, then a juvenile detention center, then abandoned in 1970. Locals call it Children's Hill. They say if you go there at night, you can hear kids laughing. But if you listen closely, it is not happy laughter. I went alone, but I brought a small teddy bear. A psychic I met in another state told me, with child spirits, do not bring crosses or charms. Bring something they never had. Like. I entered through the old chapel. The cross was upside down. Statues were smashed. But on the altar, 5 dolls sat in a row. Each wore a tiny patient gown. Numbers were written on their chests. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th doll had no number. Its face was scratched out. Only one eye remained, and it was wet. I placed the teddy bear beside them. Then I walked deeper into the treatment wing. In the last room at the end of the hall, I found a small metal bed and a notebook. The first pages were filled with crude drawings, figures tied to chairs. The last page said, "Today I died, but I still count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mommy, I am still in the room." I heard laughter coming from under the bed. I bent down. No one was there, but in the dust on the floor, 5 tiny handprints pointed toward the door. The laughter spread through the hallway. I ran to the door, but it slammed shut. In the darkness, small hands tugged at my pants. They climbed up my back. I did not look. I closed my eyes and said, "I did not come to hurt you. I just want to know your names." The laughter stopped. A tiny voice whispered in my ear, "My name is James. I am 5 years old. I do not have a mommy." Another voice, "I am Ella, also 5. I was hungry." Then Michael. Then Sophie. And the fifth child did not say its name. It only whispered, "I died when I was 5 days old. No one ever named me." I cried. I promised to put their names on a headstone at the nearby cemetery. I promised to come back every year on the 5th day of May and light a candle for each of them. When I opened my eyes, the door was open. On the small bed, the 5 dolls lay in a circle. My teddy bear was in the middle. Beside it was a wild yellow flower, the kind that does not grow inside a hospital. I still have that flower. 5 years later, it has not wilted, and I still go to Essex every May. The last time, I heard laughter again, but it was not frightening anymore. It sounded like children playing hide and seek in the empty hallway. Lincoln Sanatorium in Alabama, built for the poor and leprosy patients, closed in 1978. One section, called Ward D, was padlocked from the outside, not to keep people out, to keep what was inside from getting out. I did not want to go, but someone sent me an envelope with no stamp, no return address. Inside was a single scrap of paper. "Come to Ward D at 5 a.m. Bring a shovel." I almost threw it away, but that night I dreamed of a pale white arm pushing up from under a concrete slab. Each finger was waving, like it was swimming through air. I woke up with 5 long scratches on my arm. I drove to Lincoln at 4 a.m. Ward D was a 1-story building. Half the tin roof collapsed. In front of the door, a concrete slab had been poured recently, but its surface was cracked. There were hand-shaped dents pushing up from below, and in the largest crack, I saw a real hand. Gray skin, long nails. I touched it, cold but soft, like a body that had just died. The hand grabbed mine, squeezed hard. From beneath the ground, a choked voice said, "Dig, dig me out. I am still breathing." I dug. The soil was loose, as if it had been dug and refilled many times. An hour later, I found a wooden coffin with a glass lid. Inside lay a man in a patient gown. His eyes were wide open. His mouth was stretched as if screaming, but his chest was still moving. He tapped his hand on the glass 5 times. I smashed the glass. Air escaped with a hiss. The man whispered, "I was buried alive in 1978, 40 years. They thought I died of leprosy, but I did not die." Then he stopped breathing. For real, this time. I called the police. They came. They investigated. On the back of the man's gown, a plastic tag read, "Patient No. 005. Lincoln Sanatorium. Permanent Isolation. 1978. No one ever found his records. The hospital had a fire in 1979. All the files burned. At the local library, an old journalist told me there were rumors that Ward D was for patients considered incurable. They reported them dead, but some were still alive. I do not know how many others are still under that concrete. I never went back. But sometimes, when I lie in bed, I hear tapping from under my floor. Knock, 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 knock. I tell myself it is the pipes, but pipes cannot knock exactly 5 times in the rhythm of a distress signal. Pulmonary Peak in Virginia. Locals call it Blood Spit Mountain, a one-story hospital running along a hillside, abandoned since 1962. One strange detail: rooms numbered 5, 15, 25, 35, and 45 were welded shut from the outside, not just locked, completely sealed with steel plates, as if they wanted to bury whatever was inside forever. I arrived on a drizzly afternoon. The trees around the building were bare, no leaves, even though the surrounding forest was green. No birds, no insects. The silence had weight. Mender. I found the record room. Most documents had rotted, but there was one photo album, TB patients with their eyes gouged out. In the corner of each photo, the number 5. I pressed my ear against the steel door of room 5. From inside, I heard an EKG machine. Beep, 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 5 times slower than a normal heartbeat. And then whispers. Many voices speaking in unison. We died at 5:5. Let us out before the 5th bell rings. At the end of the hall, room 50, an ordinary wooden door, unlocked. Inside, there were no beds, just a circular hole in the floor about 3 meters deep. At the bottom, bones, layer after layer of bones, and on top, a child's skeleton sitting upright. In its hands, a copper bell, green with tarnish. I reached down and took the bell. It was heavy. I shook it gently. No sound could oat. But at that moment, from the 5 sealed rooms, 5 bells rang out at once, loud, clear, and a voice, or many voices, said, "Whoever holds the bell is the next to take their place." I threw the bell back into the pit. I ran out of the room. I ran down the hall. Just as I reached the main entrance, the steel doors blew off their hinges. No people, no ghosts, just darkness. But from that darkness, countless black hands reached out, endless, stretching. They did not chase me. They only waved, as if inviting me home. I ran down the hill. I got in my car. I drove 50 miles before I stopped. I opened the trunk to get a bottle of water. The bell was sitting there. Beside it, a wet piece of paper. Written in brownish ink, "See you in 5 days. At an abandoned hospital near your home." I have moved 3 times since then. I sealed the bell in a box and put it in a bank vault. I never open it. I never go near it. And I will not tell you where I live. Because if you come looking for me and you accidentally touch that bell, you will hear the call from those 5 steel doors. And next time, they might open from the wall of your own bedroom. 5 stories, 5 places, 5 different kinds of fear. At Willard, a creature without a face. At Waverly Hills, a crime buried for decades. At Essex Mountain, children who only wanted to be remembered. At Lincoln, a man who waited 40 years under concrete. At Pulmonary Peak, a bell that chooses the next keeper. All of these places are real. You can find them on a map. Some are still standing. Some have been torn down. The details I have shared have been changed to protect the people who spoke to me. But the core of each story, the loneliness, the horror, the loop of the number 5, is something I cannot explain. I do not know why the number 5 appears so often. Maybe it is a coincidence. Maybe it is a rule of the other side that we do not understand yet. But I know this: if you ever go to an abandoned hospital and you hear 5 bells, do not count them, do not look back, and never, ever pick up anything with the number 5 on it. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. And if you need me, do not look for me. I am still listening. in my own hallway for the sound of a wheelchair rolling.